Rhymbil is now online. What's good, you guys and girls? This is the fourth video in our series, and today we're going to be talking about functions. A function is like a closed room. You can't take things out, you can't put things in. You can only do that when you open up your room door. That's the same way a function works. You can't execute code in a function until you call it. And this is how you call a function. And just to be sure this function is working, we're going to display an empty alert box. And just for the true beginners out there, we're going to have to save this as a .html file. Awesome. And as we open it up, you can see our alert box straight up. It means it works. Now, as we take away our function call, it shouldn't work anymore. And that's the basics for calling functions. Alright, this next up is a tip, and a tip is if you were to make a global variable in the main script, you can access it in a function. But if you're to make a variable in a function script, you can't access it in the main script. That's because when you create a variable and declare it in a function, it's local to only that function. And the rest of this segment is just showing what I explained. So basically, when we're trying to access a variable that was made in a function in the main script, it's not going to work. In fact, we get an error which says there's no such thing as a global variable. Well, that is true in a way, because a function just localizes the variable. The best thing you could do is just to remember that whatever variable you declare in a function is local and can't be used anywhere else. Here we go again. Alright, this next tip is pretty much showing you how to set an interval for a function. That's pretty much what it means. We're going to set this function at an interval or a rate at a specific number. And that specific number is up to you. I'm going to set it to 1 second because why not? And when you save and reload, you should see an alert is going off every 1 second. Try closing all of them. Alright, this next one is kind of similar, but it's called set timeout. And timeout is exactly what it means. It's going to call this function after a certain amount of time. But unlike interval, it's only going to call it once. So if we put a set timeout for like 5 seconds, it's going to call this function after 5 seconds and then stop. And as you guys saw, I called this for 1 second and it waited for 1 second, then called the function and then stopped. Alright, this next up is exactly what we just talked about, except instead of wrapping this on top of the function, you can just call this separately, so it's just a shorter way of writing it. Congratulations if you made it this far in the video and you actually understand what I just told you. Well, that's pretty much the basics of functions and how to use them. And next time we're going to try and integrate HTML with a little bit of JavaScript and then make something cool in the end. And until next time, Rhymbil out.